can't see me like Houdini, move discreetly. I go, they can't see me like Houdini, Lamborghini. It go, they can't see me like Houdini, move discreetly. That's it. Go, they can't see me like Houdini, Lamborghini. It go.
Welcome to Misbehaving Women, where we unapologetically dive into the issues that matter most to women, from wellness to feminism and everything in between. No sugarcoating, no filter.
We're here to spark conversations about the real life challenges we face, the topics that often get swept under the rug, and the ones men need to hear about if they want to truly support the women in their lives.
I'm Kelli Taylor, a best-selling author, award-winning acupuncturist, and hormone coach for women's health. I'm passionate about helping women live their best and healthiest lives.
I'm Rebecca McMillan, founder of Worthfulness.com, an online self-guided program that teaches teen girls and young women real tools and concepts they use to support unshakable self-worth for life. Together, we're here to shake things up and have some...
Oh, I make some real. Sorry. Okay, so
do that again.
Okay, so 3, 2, 1.
Together, we're here to shake things up and have some real, no BS conversations. So we launched.
We did. We survived the launch.
People are listening. Now we know.
Well, I think we couldn't be more grateful for all the people who listened yesterday. We kind of had a private goal of downloads that we wanted to achieve, and we surpassed that.
Yes.
So we are very, very grateful for everyone to kind of to listen and then to chime in. So we had a lot of messages yesterday.
And the fact people shared it with friends, like they felt worthy of that, is so nice.
So amazing. And we had Canada, the States, Spain, UK, Ireland. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And for 2 nobodies.
Hey, I'm famous in my own mind.
You are. So we're very grateful. So thank you so much. And we're looking forward to keeping you entertained, because I think that was a big thing. I loved the comments about how people were literally laughing out loud.
Yes. My friend texted me in the morning. She's like, I don't pee on the seat. I wipe up my pee on the seat. Who are these people? That was like her first response to me, which I loved. And throughout the day, people were writing that. I'm like, we didn't solve it. No one's owning up to being the people that leave the pee on the seat. So I don't know who's doing it.
Well, I had someone yesterday say to me, she said her and her husband were listening. They were killing themselves laughing. And she's like, we didn't know what X, Y, Z was either. So
I think that's maybe an Ontario thing.
I know, that's what I was saying. Yeah. I'm wondering if it's an Ontario thing, because I don't know.
We didn't have it on the West Coast.
I don't know.
Another friend texted me, you're flying low.
Who knew that's what they were going to entertain by?
I'm like, okay, proof you listened. Thank you.
Yeah. And we love the comments. Like, so many. We love your chemistry.
Yeah.
I love that they texted in about Finn.
Yes.
So many messages about Finn. And they're like, we heard Finn.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yep, you did.
He's more famous than us.
He's going to be more famous than us, right?
Yeah.
Totally.
That's okay. I can let him have the spotlight. Yeah.
But we were talking, and I will put him on our Instagram so you guys can see what Finny looks like. And know that he will be back. There will be more episodes with little pitter-pattering. And if you were really able to listen to us with headphones on, you could hear at one point in time we both stopped because he was drinking water.
Yes. Yeah.
We didn't say what he was doing, but that was that little break.
Yeah.
It was like, all right, and now he's drinking water, or he's scratching. So
which is, I think I said, I hope that doesn't trigger misophonia people, because I have misophonia, and I was like, oh no, we're going to lose them now. Another friend of mine who, it's funny, so he is a luxury travel journalist. I think the best job in the world I've ever heard of, to be honest. And he wrote me and he's like, don't tell people to cruise. It's bad for the environment. I was like, oh, is it? I was on those ships a long time.
Well, one of my friends that I cruise with, I talked to her last night, and her husband is also one of the people that we cruise with. And he was giving me a hard time because he said he didn't know that I was not a fan of cruising. And I was like, I felt like I had to backpedal a little bit. And I'm like, well, like, I did say, like, you guys are my favorite people, and you're like family to
What
me.
about all the other
And
stuff?
it isn't about it. I love my time with you. That's why I go
Oh,
cruising.
but when you went on the other cruises, you didn't tell them that you.
Well, I did. I thought it was really.
Oh, okay.
Somehow he didn't get the
He blocked it
message.
out.
He did not get the message. And I do want to say that I do not hate cruising. It's just not my favorite way to travel. That's what I'm going
There's
to
a
say.
lot of people that are like that. For
Yeah,
sure.
it wouldn't be my first choice to travel that way, but I appreciate that they do, and I just want to hang out with them. Like, I have
Yes.
so much fun with them. We laugh so much. We have such a great time.
So funny.
So-
You're already getting in trouble.
I know. I really felt like I was like, oh no, and I had to backpedal a little bit. So
I love it.
yeah, and then we did have a couple of people ask us if they can. They said that the topic was obviously perimenopause, menopause,
Yeah.
and during our episode, they felt like questions were coming up, and I literally had a couple of people message me to say, well, if I have questions, can I send it to you? And I'm saying that's a great big yes. And for somebody else she had said a lot of things that come up for her, and I'm like, send in your questions.
Yeah, or comment on the on Instagram, like on
Absolutely.
the episode, add a question on there. It's a great way to get us questions as well.
Yeah.
I had so many comments about like you really struck through something.
Yeah.
On like so many women were like, they have things to say based on what you said.
There's so much that we
Yeah.
can talk about hormones in general,
Right.
but we did want to be able to kind of spark the conversation about the things that people didn't know, but also the lesser things that no one really knows about. So
And maybe didn't want to.
yeah.
Some of those side effects. That's another thing people were writing me like, oh my God. What?
And one of the other things that came up, we actually sold some merchandise yesterday, which we were super excited about because we love our merchandise. And I'm not even saying this just to make sales.
Yeah.
It's just we
want to wear it.
We want to wear it. It's so comfortable. And people were asking, oh, where do you get the merchandise? So it's on Etsy. We have our own Etsy store. It's called Misbehaving Women. So
And there's a link in the show notes on like whatever you're listening to. There's a
Yes.
hyperlink there.
Yeah. So
I just want to walk around in things that say misbehaving woman. Like
yes.
on it. So.
And we have misbehaving woman and we have misbehaving mode.
Yeah.
So that seemed yesterday to be popular.
Yeah. So around the perimenopause thing, my mom was so good. She texted me so cute. She's like, I'm so glad Kelly brought up forgetting the word aspect of perimenopause.
I'm glad I can be helpful for other women.
I think a lot of women were like, yes, oh, that's what's going on. So many things around that. And she was like, oh, the description for a hot flash was perfect. It was right on. It's like there's a fire inside you and you have to cool it immediately. You need to be cool. And she told me, she's like, if she was at work, she'd go outside. I didn't know this. It was like nice to find out. But if she was at home, she'd put her head in the freezer. And she's like, that's what would work. It would immediately cool it down. So hot tip.
Yeah, I was just
Pun
gonna
intended.
say.
Hot tip.
Every woman has her own way of doing things.
Yeah.
And if you need to stick your head in the freezer, go for it. No one is judging you.
Yes, absolutely.
So tell me what's been going on.
I got my highlights done this week, and the stylist called my gray hairs sprinkles, which I was like, oh my God. She's like, oh, I see we got a few sprinkles here. I was like, is that what we're doing now to make it? Like, I'm like, you can tell. I know I have gray hair. Let's just call a spade here.
I'm sorry, that is hilarious.
Oh, I was like cringing. I'm like, let's not do that. Let's not. You don't need to pretend I don't have gray hairs. And it's funny because in our last episode we talked about how you don't have gray hair. So yeah, that was.
Well, I have a couple, but I don't have. I think if
You can't say you
I should have way more gray hair than I do. I do feel that way, and yet it's not happening. And I am gonna relish in that. A little bit.
Absolutely. Everyone gets different gifts in
Yes.
life, so like own it, you know? I mean, you don't have to brag constantly, but it's like okay
There
to
you
be
go.
proud and excited that you don't have them. What I would have saved in hair color alone. Oh my God. Let's see. So she discovered, you know the zip line they have at playgrounds? Like
Yeah.
you hold onto
Yeah.
it and ride. So she discovered that, but she doesn't want to ride it. She just wants to take it and push it away and watch it slide down the rope. So I've been managing. I'm like her PR person. There's like a lineup of kids that's so popular behind her. And they all start saying to me, why is she pushing it? Why isn't she going? Now we have to get it. I'm like, she just likes to watch it go down the thing. Like, what? And they're all mad. And some kid has to run and get it. So that's been my life this week. I'm like Evie's PR at playgrounds all over Vancouver. It's so
Evie's
funny.
gonna start a riot at the
I know. And every time now I'm like, I hope she doesn't see there's a zip line over there. And she'll be like, oh, what she calls it, the umbrella. Go, the umbrella. I'm like, okay, I know. It's so funny.
She's a misbehaving woman.
She's a misfit. You're right. She's
Yeah.
already shaking things up in the
She
playground.
is.
There was a BuzzFeed story yesterday, like, on my Apple phone, it's news, and I click it, and it was so appropriate to our episode. It was like, people lacking common sense. And like one of the things that fit in was a woman said she thought that once you got your period, you got it forever. Like it never stopped when she was little,
Oh.
right? She hadn't, hadn't been properly. There was no
How
education.
old was she?
Well, I'm assuming 12 or something. I don't
Oh,
know, right? First
okay.
period.
Oh, okay. So it's a young girl. Sorry, I missed that.
When she was a young girl.
When she was a young girl. Gotcha.
And so she said when her first period stopped, she assumed the neighbor's dog had impregnated her when she was petting it. Or I guess, you know how dogs like sniff? It probably had been like sniffing around her or something. So for a month, she was so stressed out and worried that she had a half dog, half human baby. Yeah, she was like, this story is brought to you by the Ontario Catholic School Sex Ed in the 90s. So we're doing great work educating people here on that. I just couldn't believe that was yesterday's story when our episode came. I'm like, it's so fitting because we talked about our sex ed.
I feel so bad for her though.
I know. In the 90s still.
Yeah, can you imagine how stressful that would be? A dog has impregnated me.
And it's totally the type of thing like a little mind processes but doesn't tell anyone but is so worried about, right? Yeah, I thought that was cute. And I wanted to actually point out too, a big part of us obviously pulling from, well-behaved women seldom make history, we're misbehaving women, is everyone knows those awesome misbehaving women in their lives, and we hope people start sending us in examples of, tell us about a misbehaving woman in your life that you're proud of, or that or something they did. And of course there's a lot of famous ones, but ideally it's just, people in your life that no one would have heard of otherwise. And, maybe do a video on your social or however you want to do it. Write a text on your social story if you don't want to do a video of yourself, and tag us, tag them. And we'd love to share stories about misbehaving women all around the globe.
Who are the people that are shaking things up?
Yeah, we want to give them shout outs.
We do.
I'm editing our episodes and listening to our episodes. It really strikes me one thing that Kelly and I are on opposite ends on. And that is codependency and not codependency. And as you listen to more and more episodes, it keeps coming up. Where I am like, I call myself a recovering codependent, and Kelly is not at all. I would say that you have zero codependency. Yeah. So it's just, that's what's been striking me as been editing. I'm like, oh my God. And so as you're listening, you'll start to, you're like, there's Becky being codependent. There's Kelly having her set a boundary. It comes up a lot, I think. So it's funny. I'm going to be more conscious of it now as we're recording, but in our first episodes, I really hear it.
That's interesting that you've actually picked up on that.
Oh yeah, big time. Well, because I was probably the most, I don't know, what's the version? If there's a spectrum, I am way at the other end of someone who, like, I would be in a room and imagining I'm monitoring everybody's emotions and feelings in the room, like strangers, which is ridiculous. And obviously I've done a lot of therapy to let that go. It's a lot of pressure too. And it's ridiculous because I am not managing or impacting them. And I don't need to monitor how they're doing. I just need to monitor myself. Yeah. But so that's what's weird for me. And thank God I actually have come to where I am at that place of not being as codependent, because I don't know who's listening. So I'm trying to manage the emotions of listeners all over the world that I don't know what they're feeling. And so there's a part of my brain that is processing, how could someone be feeling right now based on what we're saying, which, this is a good challenge for me in life actually, is to really let that go. Cause how can I possibly? I can't.
No,
I can't.
And we had a conversation recently and I said something that you were like, oh, and a big part of that was, when people say that something has triggered them.
Yeah.
my belief system and my years of therapy, and when you say, we're in different places, but I'm also 9 or 10 years older than you. So I've had a little bit more time to also get there, because
I don't believe you were codependent.
I've had a lot of, like I've had therapy, and
Right.
I have a deep spiritual practice, which also I think comes back to a lot of this.
Yeah.
But when you feel triggered, you personally are triggered by something somebody has said, my belief is that, that is where my work lies.
That's a me issue.
That's a me issue, not somebody else. You don't
Not
have
the
to
person
change.
that triggered you.
Yeah. So the person who said it doesn't need to change. You need to figure out what is it inside of you that still needs healing, and where did that start from. And so for me, every time something happens, it's like, oh, there we are. Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay, this is about me. I don't always know what it is in the moment, but I know that I want to say that you need to change about something because I don't like what you're saying. And now I've learned, oh, okay, no, they don't need to change, and that people can say whatever they want. And the thing is that people say things that one person may feel is offensive and somebody else doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just, this is somebody's opinion. And now, are you triggered by that opinion? And if you are, my whole thing is like, okay, when that happens to me personally, I'm like, okay, this is a me issue. So now I got to go figure that out. Am I making sense?
Yeah,
How
that is by far one of the biggest game-changing life things you've taught me, and it's really impacted how because before, when you get triggered, you want to take that out on the person that triggered you. And for me to have that mental shift of, it's not about them, like they're not involved in my reaction, and I need to, like, why was I triggered, what is that? Like, life is so much easier, I would say, because otherwise you could be triggered all the time, especially if you haven't healed anything.
This is what's happening in our society right now, is that the expectation is everybody else needs to change.
Right.
So I'm going to sit in a place where, oh, I'm not comfortable, so you need to change.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, this is something about you. This is triggering you. And for my spiritual practice, this is your gift. This is something that's given to you so that you can do the deep work that you need to let whatever it is that you need to heal and let go. So if you're being triggered by something, then maybe you're saying that this is bullshit and that's not true. I'm just going to throw it out. Next time something triggers you, maybe kind of try and bring that inward and see how that works for you.
What's it reminding you of?
Yeah. See how that works for you. What is it that inside you needs some healing? And why did that? And where did it come from? That's usually is like where I like to start. Oh, what emotions are associated with that? And then
or bring that to your therapist.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Yeah. And there's so many different ways to heal. Everybody's got different tools to be able to use. And maybe you don't have any tools, and maybe this is a good time that you can start to bring some new tools in for yourself.
Yeah, genuinely helped me massively.
It's food for thought.
Yeah, you don't have to.
But in general, this way of thinking is food for thought, because I think right now there's certain generations that aren't buying into the whole trigger warning and triggers and things like that, because what they're saying is not triggering. It's not triggering for everybody. So they're like, okay, so if you're being triggered, then maybe this is more a you issue.
Yep. You saying this probably triggered somebody.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
People are like, is there a call-in feature? I want to call in right now and talk to her.
Yeah. Well, I believe that you have to take full responsibility for everything.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't know, you can't point fingers, because number one, you can't change people. You can only change yourself.
Yeah.
And the only things that we will ever control in life are our thoughts, words, and actions. That's the only thing we ever have control of. And all of those things are inside jobs.
Yeah, and your thoughts affect your feelings, which affect your actions. So it really is an inside job. Yeah. But I didn't learn that until I was at least in my mid-30s. So, give yourself some grace too if you're younger and listening.
Another big question we had yesterday, and actually this morning too, was, will we have video? And the answer is going to be yes, a great big yes. We're very excited to bring you video. We did not start out with video because we were just trying to get one thing mastered at a time. And it was actually quite shocking how intimidating it was to sit in front of a microphone and just have these conversations. So we wanted to get comfortable with being behind the mic. And starting in November, we think at least at the minimum, we're going to have clips for you. And hopefully somewhere in November, December, we're going to have full video of our little
Yay!
chat. So
Yeah.
we're very excited to be able to do that. And then in the new year, we will have guests, which was another question that we had. Will you ever have guests on? And yes, but that will not be until the new year. So we're kind of trying to master each skill first before we move on to the next one.
And we, like we said, we have over a year's worth of like topics already,
Absolutely.
and they keep coming up as like this episode came out, people sent ideas in.
Yes.
A lot of those do require us to have a guest. Like it would be insane for us to do it without a guest. So that's the ones we've saved, and we will get to those.
Yes.
And we're excited for that.
Yeah, and we're excited to bring you people that aren't famous, and maybe that will happen one day. I'm never going to say no to that.
We have a dream list.
Yes, we do.
Anything else happened this week?
This week was, for me, I'm going to say it was a pretty, normal week. It was busy with work because we were launching this week, and also I have school. And school is it's an ongoing sitcom for me. So as I had shared last time, I thought I was going to school for 2 weeks or 2 hours.
2 weeks.
I was going to school for 2 hours once a day. And then it's like, okay, no, that's not happening. You're going to school for 2 days. And I went from 2 hours to 5 hours. And I'd wrapped my brain around it. I had surrendered to it. I was really good with it. And I'm just like, it is what it is.
And that was a journey for you to get to Big Zen with it too.
It was a journey because I really thought about a little bit, slowing down. Is that a thing I will ever do? I'm not sure, but in my head, it was my version of slowing down. And so I was good. And I went to school this week happy, and I did not text anyone any griping about anything. So I was like really proud of myself. And so as I'm leaving class, my 2-hour class. So I have a 2-hour class and a 3-hour class. My 2-hour class, as I'm leaving, very excited. I'm always the first to pack everything up. I've got my backpack with me. I'm standing up, headed towards the door. And the teacher says, well, this class is starting out a little slow, but that's okay. Don't worry about it. We're still going to get everything in because in December, we're going to 4 hours. And I am not kidding you. My jaw hit the floor because I am like waiting for someone to come out, jump out from somewhere and saying, you're being punked.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen. And I am like, what is going on? So now,
as Kelly's saying this, she's rubbing her temples. You're still in stress and shock. Oh my God.
I've now gone from 2 hours to 5
What?
hours.
How can
now
I do
in
that?
December to 7 hours a week. And I don't know if I can really express how busy my schedule is.
Yeah.
And I am now thinking, okay, I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to, and I know I can see from people's point of view, it's another 2 hours, but it's not
Nobody is thinking that.
It's not just 2 hours. It's also the amount, because I thought I was doing this class as 2 hours a week study time, but it's actually going to be a lot of work, and I've got to study outside of that. And right now I'm working 6 days a week just to keep everything going.
Yeah.
So I've done nothing but laugh about it because
that is like a bomb was thrown in front of you as you're walking.
It just gets more comical as we go along.
Yeah.
So here I am. So
Oh
I'm
my
like, all right,
God.
it is what it is.
I could never do 4 hours in one class.
And I just thought, you know what? That 100 hours is going to go quicker than I thought.
That's
so
true.
I'm focusing on that goal.
Yeah.
So here I am.
Love it. Good for
Yeah.
you.
So that
Wow.
was this week.
Oh my God. So in this episode, Kelly makes a point that I would call sort of the highest spiritual teaching challenging or one of around when, you know, the bad stuff or really horrible things happen to you, that they're happening for you. And I'm scared that will feel like a bomb to some people based on the horrible things that have happened to them. And I just thought, oh, Kelly, you got to kind of add a little more to that if no one's ever heard that concept. I don't want anyone to feel hurt by that. And then her and I have had many debates.
We definitely have.
Since then, on whether or not that is needed. And so Kelly, you know, has said to be authentic, we should let you into that conversation as well.
Yeah. And what I had said was life happens for you, not to you. And I really heard and we have literally had a few conversations about this. And Becky's in agreement with that statement, but what the concern was is that if something bad has just happened to you in life, and it can be anything where it's maybe floored you or brought you to your knees and you're really struggling, and then you hear me say life is happening for you, not to you, and you're like, okay, I'm
Fuck you.
Yeah, fuck you, I'm out of here. What I want to say in that is that life is always going to be a series of ebb and flow. And sometimes when you're ebbing and life is happening and it has floored you and you're laying there and you've got to find a way to get yourself back up off the ground, the first thought, and Becky said, well, what about things that have happened to you? And I'm like, well, my first thought is this is happening for me, not to me. And I said, not at all. There is a process that has to happen. And part of that process is me having to find a way to just get myself sitting up. And then I got to find a way to be able to get to maybe my knees before I even get to my feet. And then to be standing where I don't need to hold on to something. It's such a process. And in all of that is this healing journey. And what I'm saying is that every single time that something has floored me and I feel like a Mack truck has run me over, I've had this process of healing and growth. But what I can say for certainty in my life is that along that journey, I have come to the realization that life is happening for me, not to me. But it's not my initial thought. And that I had to go through a lot of healing and some tough life lessons along the way where I'm like, okay, I'm getting it, I'm seeing it. And it starts to literally unfold for me. So know that if you are going through this right now, yeah, your first thought isn't going to be, this is happening for me. It's just not.
Or in the past, the like unimaginable horrible thing happened to you and you think of that. That's the thing. I think Kelly's saying it's a process, it's a journey, and she's
full journey, and it's multiple things. Yes, things have happened in the past, but I've never not gotten to a place where I can see why this is happening to me. And maybe I don't, maybe I've got my why and maybe I'm still searching, but maybe you need more lessons and more life and more, flowing and maybe a little bit more ebbing before you like, oh, I've got it. Because you're always going to be moving forward as long as you're working on that healing journey, if I can say that. And I hope that makes sense. And if it doesn't make sense, that's okay. Take what you can from our podcast, let the rest go, and know that we're going to be bringing this topic in and out throughout our episodes. And maybe over time, things will start to click for you. Or maybe they won't, but hopefully you can kind of understand where we're coming from and how we got to this place in our lives.
Yeah, we can let it lie there.
Yeah, absolutely.
After us discussing it for 8 hours,
8 hours.
over multiple days, we'll let it lie there.
They can't see me like Houdini, move discreetly. I go.
My favorite mud water is the matcha. I've had a morning ritual now for over 20 years that always begins with a matcha latte. I now drink mud water because the added mushrooms level up my day with natural energy, focus, and immunity support. To purchase, go to mudwater.com/wellness. It brings you to our Misbehaving Women's discount offer. Get $20 off a monthly subscription plus 15%, or go to the 15% off for your first time starter kit. mudwtr.com/wellness.
So our body image, and tied in with that, we added cellulite.
Yes,
That's
we
such a big
did.
part for women. Episode.
Yeah, I'm excited about this episode today because I feel like there isn't really any women. Maybe there's one or two that don't struggle with body issues.
Yes.
It's everywhere.
Yes.
Like there's nowhere that you can go where like an ad or someone is commenting on something where you're not second guessing your body.
Yes. And the bigger disservice, I think, is that for most women, this is what I've realized after all the research I've done on this for the teen girls. I don't know that there's maybe on their wedding day or something. Most women don't have one day in their entire lives where they're satisfied with how they look physically. There's something they're sitting there hating about themselves.
Yeah.
So it's not even like, oh, for a month I really loved how I looked in my life. It's like an entire lifetime.
Yep.
Where most women, I don't know, maybe there are some women out there, are never able to just sit and be like, yeah, I like how I look, or, I'm content with how I look.
Yeah. I think it's such a big one because the messaging for us is always that there's something wrong with us.
Totally.
I remember I went to San Diego one time and I was at a juice bar and I was waiting for my juice, and outside was this little newsstand and it was a free magazine that you could grab. So I grabbed it and I sat down at the table and opened it up and I am like, what the fuck? Every page was literally telling me that my butt was not big enough, my lips were not big enough, my breasts were not big enough, my waist was not, small enough.
Yeah.
It was just like, and it was literally ad after ad after ad after. I was like, where's the content of this magazine?
Yeah.
But it was literally everything telling me that I was not enough, just the way I was.
Yeah.
And I felt so sad by that, to be completely honest. And I remember saying to Clint, like, this is crazy to me that there is a magazine out there that's telling women that there is nothing about them that is enough.
Yeah.
And that they have the solution to every problem that I have.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and if you didn't think you had a problem, you do now.
Right.
And I remember distinctly feeling really sad that this is why women feel the pressure to diet, to do all these surgeries, and walk around life feeling like they're not enough just the way they are. Yeah.
Not attractive.
Not attractive. Yeah.
It's insanity.
It is.
And it starts as young as 3.
Mm-hmm.
3-year-olds show signs of body dissatisfaction, which is the most effed up thing I've ever heard in my life.
That is it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And where are they getting that? Right? Cartoons.
I think honestly, okay, this is going to be controversial to say, but I think it's their mothers.
And the household, for sure. I think that's the only 2 places it comes from, is media messaging surrounding us constantly, that unless you live in the forest on your own, you can't get away from.
Yeah.
And what is the emphasis on appearance in your house?
Yeah.
Or are you saying specifically how the mom sees themselves and then the girls?
Yeah, I think it's how the mother sees themselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a little controversial.
Yeah, I do, because the thing is that there can't not be an aspect of that, because the mothers are getting the same messaging. They've had the same messaging as everyone else. So how can that not be brought down?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm just thinking of all the moms that already beat themselves up. And then this is another thing to add to their list.
Yeah.
It is so unintentional, but definitely, yeah. I try to be so conscious of it. I only have a 3-year-old, but now I think like, oh my God, at this age, she could already be developing messaging. And I look at the shows she watches, and it is cartoons. And in the cartoons, even the animals look a little bit sexy, like the female animals, right?
Yep.
Which is disturbing in itself.
So I want to be really clear. We're not trying to shame anyone. I think the point of this conversation today was to be able to help everyone see what their own messaging is about their own body. Like, what are we telling ourselves about our own bodies?
Yeah.
And then trying to decipher, where are you getting the messaging, like, where did your messaging come from?
Yeah.
And also, what are you putting out? So if you do, like for me, like I'm not a mother, but I'm an aunt, and what messaging am I putting out there? You know, and not only just for my family, but for all the other women that I'm around. Like, what messaging do I put out there? Like, every time I go out and somebody gives me a compliment about something, am I allowing myself to take in that compliment, or am I turning that into a negative? Oh no, you know?
Yes.
Yeah,
God, I
no.
hate that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I hate my thighs today.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
Not being allowed to just be like, yeah, my butt looks amazing. You're
Yeah.
right. You know, whatever it is,
Exactly.
being the society also lets you own it.
Yeah.
And let me tell a truth that is shameful. I've become like, I'm so good at verbally never commenting on weight. And I always tell Evie, like, you're so strong, you're so powerful, let's see your muscles, you're so athletic. Like, try to put that as the emphasis, which maybe there should be literally no physical emphasis. But I've realized that when I look in the mirror, I look at myself front on and then sideways. And I just see, like, oh, how much is my belly showing in this outfit, right? I don't think I do it a lot. We don't even have a full body mirror for like us in our house, just for Evie, because kids love looking at themselves. So it's down on the ground. And about 2 months ago, I saw her look like she loves to look at her face in the mirror, make faces, see what it looks like. And she stood sideways and looked at her body. And I thought, I'm like, oh my God, is she doing that naturally, just checking herself out? Or is she doing that because she's seen me do that? So now I never do that. But like, that was just inadvertent. Like, I don't think she's looking at me. I almost never look at my body in the mirror, but she probably has seen me do it. And so she's doing it,
Yeah.
copying me.
And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. It's not her looking at herself because you want her to, you know what I mean? Like, I think that it's okay to look at ourselves in the mirror. It's not us looking at ourselves in the mirror. It's what we're telling ourselves that we're looking at. That's where the issue is. So she can see, oh, this is what mom does. But your messaging in your mind, you know, hopefully is not the messaging that she has. She's just curious.
Yeah.
I think at 3, they're just curious about what's going on. And
Oh, she
they're
loves it.
discovering things. Yeah, for sure. They're discovering their different body parts. And
Yeah.
they're discovering what they look like.
Yeah.
And just to go back to what you said about telling, you know, Abby, that she's, you know, she's smart and she's athletic and
Yeah.
all these things. I think this again may be controversial, but I think it's okay to say that girls are pretty. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like we don't want to go to the absolute extreme
Yeah.
other way either. Like, she's so adorable and she's so cute and she's going to grow up to be this beautiful woman.
Yeah.
I want young girls to embrace their beauty.
I tell her she's beautiful, pretty gorgeous. I meant specifically what I'm saying about her body.
Her body.
So I would never, I just want her message about her body to focus on her strength.
Yeah.
And like that aspect.
Yeah.
Well, of course you'd never say to a 3-year-old, good, you look really fit or thin,
Yeah.
right? Because they don't. She has their little toddler belly, which is amazing.
But I want my nieces to be able to, you know, every woman has a part of their body that they can rock. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Some have these gorgeous, long, beautiful legs.
Yeah.
Some, you know what I mean, are just like their smile lights up a room.
Yes.
Like, I want women to embrace the different parts of them that are beautiful, and it's okay. Like, one thing I make a conscious effort to do is, like, if I see a woman and it's just like, oh my gosh, you know, that dress looks awesome on you and it just accentuates your beautiful legs. Like, it's okay to have these body parts that are beautiful, but it's I don't know, it's when we identify with that and then it becomes all that we are, is it goes wrong in that way. But then the other way, where we give a compliment and then people try and like, they're like, oh no, you know, there's fat or there's cellulite.
Yeah.
And then they turn that around. But,
Yeah. So should we share our journeys?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to go first? Or
I
you
don't
want me to
mind.
go first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go. Okay. You want me to go?
We're
Okay,
both
I'll
trying-
go.
We're both going. Okay, you. No, you.
We're such polite
I know.
Canadians. Okay, so my journey, so for me, it started very young because I'm like, what is the right term for this? I'm going to say problem skin. Like, even as a baby, I had like baby, not acne, but like the little, like, zits or whatever you'd call them as a baby. And then when I was very young, I did have like really big, like pimples, acne, whatever, from like 8, I think. And so all through like elementary school, right around the age that you're starting to become aware. Um, yeah, so that my focus on body image was very much centered around my skin and the shame over that and feeling ugly and noticing people staring at it because it was very like my whole face was like red, huge, but almost like covered in bumps from like chin to forehead.
So was it more like hormonal, like at the age of?
Well, looking back with what I know now, definitely hormones, but I think more probably what I ate. Because as I've gotten older, I know there's certain foods I eat that make me break out. Definitely hormones, though. It's not like if I hadn't eaten any of those, I think I was probably prone genetically to maybe still have that, but probably not as bad. So I had a huge journey. I could do a whole episode just actually on that. And of course, kids like teasing and mocking and, tons of stories around that. So there was such an emphasis on feeling ugly, I would say, because of my skin. And then I did go on all the antibiotics, which is horrifying for me to think back on now. But also, I feel like I didn't need that because I had such low self-esteem based on that. And so then suddenly I had clear skin. Although I took Accutane 3 times, which is like a horrible, like it's so intense and brutal. And now there's so many things that have come out. I don't know if you can still even take Accutane.
Yeah.
You
I
can?
think you can.
Oh, God. Like, I regret that so much. Even though it's a balance, because at the time it massively helped me to have such clear skin finally. I don't know. Anyways, I don't want to get sued by Accutane, but like, there's definitely stuff going on in my life. I'm like, is this a side effect of the fact that I took Accutane? Also, like in grade 5, I got a perm. That didn't help the situation. That was the wrong move for an insecure girl with bad skin to get this perm. My God.
And back then, perms were the thing, right?
I don't know
it
if
was
they
the
were.
in thing. Everybody was doing perms. Remember the smell of perms?
Oh, so toxic.
so
And immediately I regretted it. And I got home and I tried to brush it out, but you can't brush out those chemicals. So one side was like even a little lopsided. It wasn't even like a full perm. I would say there was like a summer, I think when I was 16. And, I worked outside at a water park. I got really tanned. I was allowed to color my hair. I colored my hair blonde. We still didn't have hair straighteners. That would have helped a lot. Still had my crazy hair. And what else? Yeah, so I think I got a boyfriend. I felt a little more fit and attractive, and it sort of went the other way where I started to feel attractive about just body image and how I looked. Then in my early 20s, I got very confident. I don't know if some of that, I don't know where that was. I was almost borderline cocky, I feel. Yeah, really confident. Then started working on a cruise ship. First time I ever gained really any weight that someone would say like, "Ooh," not that you would notice. I still would be considered, I think, fit by society. But when I went home, my parents were like, "What's going on here? Maybe we don't have dessert every night." Like it was the first, but it was amazing. You literally had all the desserts, all you could eat buffet. I didn't know what to do with myself. And then after I had cancer, I really gained significant weight to the point where like the society we live in would consider me overweight. But again, I was in a mindset that was, woohoo, I'm alive and let's celebrate. And I was drinking a lot and eating out a lot and just being, really in a sort of New Year's Eve type mindset every day and not exercising. Which is kind of ironic that I went the opposite way to focusing on my physical health.
Yeah.
But I really thought I was going to die. So I was just so grateful. I'm like, we're alive. Woo. Yeah, so it's really celebration. But the one good thing was I didn't care about coloring my hair or wearing makeup. And I would look at other people and think, who cares? Get over, that actually got into me, at least that I was like, that is the small stuff that doesn't matter. Who cares what you look like? How do you feel? And let's have fun, and who knows what's going to happen tomorrow. So it was a little bit too fatalist, which I held on to for a long time, which has its own problems when you live life as though tomorrow's not going to happen. It's got a lot of problems, but a lot of fun. And then I would say since then, I've been up and down around weight. Eventually, probably 5 years later, I did get really healthy. I started exercising. I kind of got out of that and did start thinking about my health. That was good. Then I moved to Ireland, and that went out the window. Got in that culture. go to the pub every night after work and have beer, which again was a lot of fun, but not very great for my health. I stopped exercising. And then probably it wasn't until I got pregnant, I had to really focus on my health, that I did again get healthy with my weight. Think about that. And then since then, probably in the last year, I've gained that weight again. So it's been up and down my weight journey, and then me, how I saw myself with that, what weight I was. There were times in there where society would have said I was overweight that I still felt good. I tried to, I really did. I was like, well, I'm curvy and it looks good. And, I like my booty. And I did believe that. And then it got to a point where I was maybe even more weight, and I felt even I couldn't feel empowered, or I didn't really think I looked good on the inside, and I did want to lose weight. So I don't know. It's like I solved the skin problem, and then I jumped right into a weight problem. So there was periods in there where I felt good about how I looked, but small.
And for you, being able to go through this journey, is there a lesson, or is there something in there that you've kind of noticed that is how I'm trying to figure out how to ask this question. So is there a lesson, or is there something that you need to learn about, maybe like body image and weight and what is causing the fluctuation?
Yeah.
Am I making sense?
Yeah. About my weight going up and down, you mean?
Yeah, like for you, like
Definitely.
I noticed that as you're talking, you're saying that there's times that you really enjoyed your body, and that even though maybe society sees it as different, but you felt really good. And then there were times that you didn't feel really good. So is there something in there that you needed to learn about yourself in order to not?
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time.
I know what you
articulating my
mean. I mean,
question.
definitely I've done a ton of work specifically for me around weight because I have this circular pattern. So yeah, I mean, I've done, all the work and going back and saying, so why is this happening? And I've joined all the different weight groups out there too. I've been in Overeaters Anonymous. I've been in a women's therapist group that just supports women working on their weight, just trying to learn and understand. But also the one positive I'll say in that journey is I did get to a place, like I have all the tools in the Worthfulness program where I do those tools, and I used those tools to get me out of it, to make me say, I don't care. I still am aware of it, but at least I'm thinking the positives, or I'm thinking that's not what's really important in life. And I'll focus on the things I'm grateful for. At least I've got to that place in my 40s. But for me personally, in that journey around weight, I have explored, is it because of sexual abuse or attention around my body physically, and me feeling not safe in the world because of the attention I got from men? I've definitely explored that, because that is a common thing for women, that they don't even realize that's why they put the weight on. So I've done that work in therapy. What I've come to now is just realizing I definitely use food to manage my nervous system. If I'm like overwhelmed, stressed out, I go to food to numb out, and just as that addictive behavior, and just like get that hit of like, and it sort of gives me that dopamine hit or whatever, which is why I went to Overeaters Anonymous and have done the work around that. So I'm very aware now that I do that. So that is clearly, there's a connection there to causing the weight gain. Times I'm really stressed out in life, or overwhelmed, or taken on too much. And then times where I put the priority in exercising or going for walks. I remember when it was during the pandemic, and I didn't have the commute. So I was able to just go for over an hour walk every day. And in 4 months, I'd lost 20 pounds. And I couldn't believe it was just from walking. Because in my mind, I thought, I'm going to have to work out hardcore to lose this weight. And, that wasn't true. So I do think it's around I would say I have a food addiction. I know that's controversial. A lot of people don't think that exists and don't believe in Overeaters Anonymous. I definitely, even if you don't think it's an addiction, I use that to manage my nervous system. It's my go-to for unhealthily managing my nervous system if I'm not using the healthy tools.
I'm interested in that. So people don't believe in overeaters.
Oh, tons.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Well, food is definitely an addiction too.
I only told probably a handful of people that I went to that, and I'd say half of them rolled their eyes. And I've even heard other people talk about it, or you're not supposed to talk about what people say in it, but as a generalization, people in their other people's lives don't support people, like, it's just like, just stop eating, get over it. Like that, you're not addicted to food. No one's like, that is definitely a huge,
Interesting. Well, that would be just like saying, like, if you're addicted to sex, then just stop having sex, or if you're addicted to drugs, just stop doing the drugs.
Yeah.
Or alcohol, just
Yes.
stop drinking.
Yes.
But it's clearly not that easy, because if it was, everyone would do it.
Right. And the piece that I think is missing in the people that judge anyone who doesn't think people are addicted to food is most food's created so that you're addicted with like hitting like the
Sugar.
salt, sugar,
Yeah.
fat, right? Hitting, and the companies know very well. And most people are addicted to sugar for sure. It's in everything.
I think it's the number one addiction.
Okay, so there you go. Actually, I want to give Dax Shepard a huge shout out because he often will say, because he talks openly about his addiction in his podcast, and he'll say he feels the most sorry for people that are in OA, like Overeaters Anonymous, because he's like, if I could just have a little bit of cocaine every day, that would be a real problem. Or if he had to,
Yeah.
right? And you have to eat, so you can never it's like it is in some ways the most challenging thing. But I think all addictions are because of it's how you're managing your nervous system. Well, that's not true. It is a disease and it's complicated, and there's there's things that happen that make people do that. But
like shopping is an addiction.
Yeah, so people are numbing out, they're getting their dopamine hit. It's really, getting away from that. Whatever is your addiction or that thing you're obsessing over doing too much, you're probably managing your nervous system on some level, as well as there's complicated reasons why you're having to escape reality or numb out or whatever that is. And I am not an expert, and I don't want to talk about that or upset people that I know it comes from like often trauma or abuse or whatever, and that's why people become addicts.
Well, for my spiritual teachings, it's like there's a hole inside you. There's something that you're trying to fill, right?
Right.
So we're gonna try and so in the spiritual world, it's like you're coming from a world of lack. So you've got to feel that intense need to fill that up. So whether you're going to fill it up with drugs or alcohol or shopping or food or sex, it doesn't matter what it is. People are drawn to different things, or a combination of those things. Gambling, you're going to try and fill that hole inside you, only to find that that hole is just, unless you can't, those things will never fill you up.
Right.
In fact, it just
makes it worse.
Problems.
A lot more problems, and the cycle goes on.
Yeah.
So I would say the good news is I've had such a journey and so many years of therapy and work and trying different techniques and groups and all that. And we could get to a place of what I think has worked for me and helped me to at least manage that, or pick healthier ways to manage my nervous system, or to see myself, or more balanced. Like, I never ask people to say, oh no, you're not overweight, or whatever it is, the thing that they hate about themselves. For example, if it's that's very real for you, and that's okay. Most people don't see themselves clearly, however, and probably most people in life would not notice that thing. But at least also think of what's you got to have something you like about yourself physically too, and focus on that as well. And let's just keep it balanced and not just be self-hating all day long.
Yeah, absolutely. So then let me ask you, what is the thing that you love about yourself?
You want me to reveal my list of physicals I love?
Yeah, what do you love about yourself? Yes.
Okay.
I want to hear what you love.
Isn't that interesting? I'm like, ooh, is it safe for someone to admit the things that, it's weird. I do have that in my head where I'm like, it feels brag. I don't know. That's funny. Okay.
But you have to embrace those things and own it.
Right.
So
That's such a
that
teaching.
you love about your body?
I love my smile. I've definitely, I've been complimented on my smile a lot in my life, and I think that's true. I would say to someone, thank you. Give me a compliment about my smile. I love my hair now that it's not permed, and if I can get a hair straightener, I've been blessed with very thick hair. So if I've done my hair, which is not often, I think I have really nice, thick, beautiful hair. Sometimes I would say I can have sparkling blue eyes, which is something else I've been complimented on, and I would be like, yeah, my eyes do sparkle a little bit. It feels so weird to be saying all the things I like about myself.
This is good. Because we want other women to be able to get to a point, if you're not at this place in your life right now, but to be able to get to the point where you can own the things that you like about yourself. Ideally, we want to love everything about ourselves. I'm not sure how much therapy that costs.
How much
to
does
be
that
able
cost?
to get there? Because I couldn't say everything I love about myself.
Yeah.
That would not be true.
Right.
I would love to get to that place,
Right.
and have made that, part of this journey, hoping to one day just get to a place where I love everything about myself.
Yeah.
But no, that wouldn't be true for me to
Right.
say that. But there's definitely got to be things that you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that it takes a lot of courage to be able to say what we love about ourselves. And I think by you doing this,
Yeah.
you're also allowing other women to be able to say what they love about themselves. And they're
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, you know what? I really like my eyes too. I've
Yeah.
got really beautiful eyes. And
Yeah.
oh, you know what? I know they think about it. Yeah, I get a lot of compliments on my eyes. So then they get to take that in as something that's theirs and they can own that. And then hopefully it just kind of grows from there.
Yeah. Well, in that case, I also love my booty.
Nice. See, there you go.
That's genetic. A lot of my one side of the family, they all have like sort of like bubble butt booty just naturally. So yeah, that's one thing that I liked even as I gained weight. I was still always happy with my butt. I'm like, oh, I still got a nice butt. That always shaped well. Like even like the men on that side of the family have those sort of like butts. Which is, I said to a younger family member the other day, "Oh, you're lucky you got the blah blah side of the family." But I could see that, and she's super in shape. Yeah, like I could, yeah, I have a list. I could go on. It's interesting though. It feels very uncomfortable to be saying, I like these things, and it's funny. Like even to the girls, I teach them. You don't have to tell everyone because I have them every morning. They have to, for a minute, say, you keep growing that list of what you like and love about yourself, and there has to be some physical on there. But I'm saying it's not that you have to tell everyone, here's all the things I love about myself every day.
Yeah.
You need to know. And it's actually no one's business unless you want to tell them, like a friend or a family member or something. But it's for you to know and hold on to. And that's really what is important is what are the ones you really believe? Not that you're getting compliments on because other people's opinions can change. What do you really, truly, you love? It doesn't matter if someone said like, you don't have a beautiful smile. You'd be like, no, I do.
Yeah.
Something that you know that much and you just keep working on that. But the idea of then telling people, I guess for this exercise, it's okay, but it's making me very uncomfortable. I'll say that.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we should just let our I was going to say our readers. No, you're not readers. Our listeners know that you have a program
Right.
that
Yeah.
you work with young girls,
Yeah.
preteens,
Yeah.
to be
And
able
teens
and
and young
teens,
adults, actually. Yeah.
to be able to help them find their own self-worth.
Right.
And you have this beautiful program, and I know it's beautiful because I myself have done the program, that allows young girls to be able to, I feel personally, to be able to find themselves, their true selves, and to be able to tap into that energy, to be able to move through the world so that what you just said, when someone says something to you like, oh, I don't like your legs, or your legs are
Right.
the comment I had before, I remember as a teenage girl, was this girl thought I had really skinny ankles, but my calves were too big. And so I
What
remember
a bizarre thing to say to
just say so, and it was so random that it came out. And then I was thinking, and I'm like, I had never thought that, and it was never thought in my head. And now all of a sudden, that's all I can think about.
Right. Yeah.
But if I had your program back then, and I had done your course, I would have probably had an easier time letting that go. Because first of all, who cares? Like, really, at the end of the day, who cares?
Yeah. If that's your thing, you're doing well.
Sorry, but okay, that bothers you, but that's a you issue, not a me issue. And I wish that I had not spent as much time as I have in my life obsessing that there's something wrong with my ankle calf ratio.
Oh my God.
So, and I love that we can laugh about this because really it's hysterical, right?
It is,
Like to
yes.
even have this conversation is so
Yes.
ridiculous.
And
So
also it shows, was it a girl that said
it
that
was a
too?
girl
It
that
just,
said it.
girls can be so cruel.
Yeah. And I feel like your course is this beautiful gift for young girls to be able to tap into their own self-worth, to be like, oh, okay, somebody just said that, but it rolls off them
Yeah.
because they're not stuck on that.
Yes.
And they're not seeing that as a problem.
Right.
Where I was like, I didn't know I had this problem. Now I've got this problem. But the
Right.
truth is that I didn't have a problem. It's just how they are. So it's how I was born. And who cares? And now that's how I see it now. Now I never think about it because it is what it is.
Thank
Moved on
you.
from it.
Yeah, I wish I had my course too when I was young. That's
Yeah.
part of why I made it, because of my own journey to get there, which I think we'll do a different podcast on.
Yeah.
Our journeys to discover that. But yeah, it's little things, realizing how other people's opinions do change. It's just kind of like giving them the big picture stuff you don't realize when you're young. There's tools throughout it, but it's also that big picture thinking that otherwise you wouldn't get. And I sort of connect the two. And I believe it doesn't matter. You can do a lot of self-esteem acts. Say there's a lot of esteemable acts to do to build up your self-esteem. And there can be people out there who have quote unquote high self-esteem, but beneath that, they don't feel worthy.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to get to the root of, I want you to know how worthy you are.
Yes.
Here's some things to build your self-esteem, but also know that you're worthy, like without a shadow of a doubt. So there's a lot of emphasis around that, told in a lot of different ways. Because God, yeah, I could have really benefited from that program. Anyway, so thank you.
Well, the self-worth or the self-esteem comes from self-worth, right? Is how I see it. Like you have to have self-worth. You have to know what
I
your
think so.
worth is.
I don't think a lot of people think that way or made that connection, but I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's how I see it. Like I
Totally.
think you have to have self-worth. You have to know that you are worthy in this world of great things. You have to know what that is for you personally. And then I think that's the foundation and then everything else builds from that.
Yeah. Where there's an emphasis on all those other
Yeah.
things, but not the foundation.
Yeah, because I'm curious now. So you can have let's just say, like I could say that I have I can say I have self-worth, but how does that show up in the world when the world tests us and then all of a sudden somebody makes a comment about your ankle calf ratio? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like all of a sudden that can change. Do you know what I mean? And now all of a sudden you're realizing, oh, maybe that you don't have that foundation as sturdy as you want it to be. And now my self-esteem is taking a hit. So I'm assuming every time I'm walking around the world thinking I have self-esteem, that I'm okay, and then the world tests me as the universe does. And I feel like now you get to actually see what that foundation is actually built upon.
Yes.
And so what I feel like when I did your course and the exercises was going to the root of what does that look like. And then being able to see, oh, okay, the universe loves to give us these tests, and let's just see when somebody says something to you about something, and it doesn't even have to be about your body. It can be about anything that you believe about any belief system that you have. And then what does that look like? So yeah, and to have young girls start out so young, which you said 3 years old, where they're starting to question their body image, right? So to be able to have this foundation and be able to help them get through the brutal teen years is huge.
Yeah, by age 6 to 8, I think, I'd have to find it, girls are very focused on, that's when it really starts happening. 40 to 60% of elementary school, like age 6 to 12, are concerned about their weight or becoming too fat. 6-year-olds.
Yeah. Like that to me is I just don't even understand that.
Yeah. And then by 11, girls' self-esteem, 11 to 14, plummets, where boys doesn't. And that is, I mean, I have a lot of explanation on worthfulness.com, but that's one big piece of why I focus on girls, is because for all the reasons you can guess, but also there's research to back it up, the girls take the hit on their self-esteem much more so than the boys do that age. And then for some it stays and some work on getting it back up.
Yeah, I was just listening to a podcast and he was talking about how the rate of teenage girl suicide is so astronomical.
Yeah.
And I believe that if you're able to get these girls very young and build their self-worth, so that they have self-respect for themselves, and when the universe tests them and all the things that are going to happen as a teenage girl, that, yeah, that's not going to be their outcome.
Yeah, that is my hope as well.
Yeah.
25% of high school girls made a suicide plan in 2021.
That's staggering numbers.
Yeah. And it really increased after the pandemic, this generation in particular. Anyways.
And then we go from everything to like eating disorders, all these other things that are going to come from there.
So tell us your journey with body
it's
image.
interesting when I thought about this. I actually can't, and I'm sure this isn't true, but my memory of my first discovery of my body and how the world saw me and how I was starting to see myself must have been about 9. I'm going to say between 8 and 10 years old. I know the memory that I have standing in front of the mirror looking at my body. And I know I was in public school. And I'm assuming I must have been between 8 and 9 years old is kind of what I'm thinking. And I remember my obsession with whether or not, because this was the big obsession with the girls in my school, was whether or not their thighs touched.
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
And I didn't really understand it. So clearly I'm standing in front of the mirror and I've got my legs and I'm just like trying to see, like, and then they're talking about the fat, your thighs can't touch, otherwise you're really fat. And it's so crazy to me, all the things that I learned, like as such a young girl going to school about, all these things. And the divine challenge I had is that, number one, I was a very late developer. So I was the last girl to get a bra for sure. And I remember asking my mom if I could get a bra, and she was really good about it. But now that I think about it, my mom was probably like, okay, this girl does not need a bra, but she knew that all the other girls were getting one. So I got my training bra.
Yeah, the training bra.
Oh my gosh.
Forgot about those.
Hilarious. And I remember coming to school and I remember all the girls like surrounded me being like, did you get it? And it was just like, I did. I didn't need it. I thought the thing was completely uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it was riding because there was nothing to keep it there. So these are the memories that were coming back to me about, and I was feeling very insecure because I wasn't developing. All these girls were getting their periods. I think I was the last to develop breasts. I was the last to have my period. Like I was probably 14, maybe close to 15 before I got my period.
Whoa.
I was very late in development.
Okay.
And the thing is that, so I kind of went from that stage to fully developing.
Right.
And now I've got very large breasts and I'm very uncomfortable the opposite way. So, and I still struggle with having large breasts. And I'm just like, I still
today?
Yeah, I still feel uncomfortable. Like it's so bizarre it's like, girls are going and having boob jobs to have what I have. And I'm just like, why would you want this much? I don't know. And I just feel like, it's really interesting to go through this whole, and now being a 50-year-old woman, really thinking I should have this figured out by now, and still having my struggles in my body. And going through, we did a episode on perimenopause, and realizing that there's going to be a lot of changes through this time. My body has changed a lot. So I feel like this time in my life has brought up a lot of these issues that I really did think I had solved. And I'm like, good God, no, here we go again. And it's like, okay, I made this commitment to myself to not body shame myself. I'm like,
Love
it's
it.
bad enough that the world is doing that to me. I do not want to do this to myself any longer. Am I perfect at that? Fuck no. But am I at least trying to catch myself and bring myself back and be like, okay, this is what you have. This is, be grateful. And I think that was a big thing about, I come back all the time when I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to wear, I bought a new dress, and I've had this problem a lot where I'll buy something and it fits, except it's really tight in the chest. And I'm like, oh, this is so frustrating. And then I have to come back to, I have two breasts. I have to like be really grateful that I have breasts. And it's just like, you know, a lot of women go through breast cancer, and there's so many things that could happen. And breast cancer runs in my family, knock on wood. I've been very fortunate. That has not been my journey. But again, it's like, be grateful for what you have and love what you have. Like I have, you know, I have to learn how to just be accepting of my body and the changes that it's going through.
And your skinny ankles.
And my skinny ankles and my not proportionate calves. I'm like, oh God. And it's really interesting to kind of go through this journey and to see the young girl who, in my head, for whatever reason, was really, I thought I was a really, you know, pudgy child. And I look and it's like, no, I was a normal looking child. Like, it's so bizarre that the story that I have in my head and the pictures that I look at, and I am like, they don't equate at all. So part of me kind of has been working through the fact that here I am during perimenopause. Things are changing. I'm getting a story in my head, and I'm thinking, wow, I wonder what it's going to be like in 15, 20 years when I look back at pictures. And probably that story's not going to match either.
Totally.
And it's just like,
that is powerful, because most women look back at photos
yeah.
and think, I know at that time I was thinking, I wish I weighed 5 pounds less. Like so many women, I just need to lose 10 pounds. I just need to lose 5 pounds and I'd be happy. And you look back at the photos and you're like, God, I look good.
Yes. Yeah, it's so fascinating to go through all this. And I had a mother who, my mother was very beautiful. She was so beautiful, very petite woman. And I definitely got some bad habits from my mother from eating, because my mother ate like a bird. And my mother was a naturally petite woman, but I think she felt a lot of pressure to stay petite and to show up in the world as this petite woman. If
Was she petite, or was it disordered eating if she wasn't eating a lot?
No, she was definitely a petite woman. Yeah,
Okay.
she wasn't skinny.
Oh,
She was
okay.
just like, yeah, she was very normal looking. Like my mom ate. I wouldn't want to say
Okay.
that my mother didn't eat. She did eat, but my mother was very conscious of, I would say, maybe of what
I'm just
she
thinking
ate.
for that generation, they didn't even know about disordered eating in a way,
Yeah.
right? Like there was a lot of secret little things they did
Yeah.
that they thought they were the only one doing.
Yeah, no, I would definitely say that my mother ate, but she was very specific about how she ate. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
she would have like a diet for her would be like cheese and crackers with like little pickles and
Well, that was the recommended diet in magazines.
right? And it was like these weird things. So I kind of learned from that. And I had, I think, a fear of gaining weight. I think and this was never said out loud, but I have a feeling that my dad also probably had some pressure on my mom to look a certain way, to show up in the world as his wife in a certain way. And like, I don't know, it's very interesting because she was already those things. She didn't need to worry about it. It's how she already was. But here she is worrying about, and my mom was never fat her entire life, and she was never like skinny, but she was never fat. She was just really just a beautiful petite woman. And so I know that some of that I learned, and that's why I say we've got to be careful about how we show up in the world, because people are watching and they're learning from that. And I definitely want to make sure that I have my things, I know, but I want to be careful of those things because I don't want to perpetuate that cycle, even though maybe I already have and don't know it.
Yeah, when I lived overseas, I won't say the country, I've lived in a few. A 6-year-old at a party was saying to me she couldn't have cake because she didn't want to gain weight, and she was a stick. And I was shell shocked. Like, I had never heard someone so young even know about that. And I was like, what? No, let's go get cake. And then she looked terrified, like, no, no, like shaking her head, like, no, 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 I can't. And I thought, where is she getting this?
Yeah. How sad is that, eh?
Probably at home, to be so
So afraid.
at the thought of like this very thin girl, like
Yeah.
even having couldn't convince her to even have a little slice of cake.
Because her kids or her friends, all those other kids are eating cake.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, so it's real. It's out there. It's funny, when we have these discussions, all these topics we think about, it always comes up like the generations before us. And gosh, it was hard for them.
Yeah.
Right? Like
really
I
hard
haven't
for them.
thought about it until we're talking about it, but they were being fed these BS diets that were in Cosmo, like have cheese and a glass of wine. You know what I mean? Like it was wild stuff that was recommended in there for a while.
Yeah.
And of course, people were gaining weight over what was recommended, and they were probably confused, or like there was a lot of pressure on them. I don't think it was very shameful. Any disordered eating behavior, you would hide it from your friends. So much harder.
I'm even more curious, like, where did this start?
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Because, like, I know that my mom was affected by this. So this is my mom was in the 1970s. My mom was in her 20s. So she's a young girl. I'm still
Yeah.
going to say that. I know girls in their 20s are going to be like, I'm not a girl, but no, but in comparison, you still are. You're still
course,
young. You're trying to figure out who you are and how to show up in the world. And this is a woman with 2 kids in her 20s, and she's trying to figure out who she is. And she's already being affected by the messaging that's happening.
Yeah.
And where is this messaging coming from?
I was wondering that. When did it start?
Yeah. And it's such a good question because, we've gone from this slight messaging of food to now like, well, you need butt implants and you need breast implants and you need lip filler.
Yeah.
And wow, you've got a lot of wrinkles. Oh my gosh. Like I went to an esthetician recently.
Yeah.
And I am like, oh my gosh. She kept looking at my face and I'm starting to feel I'm starting to feel uncomfortable. And then finally she couldn't take it anymore. And she's like, I can do something about that. And I'm thinking, what is that? Like, what is she talking about? And I had because I did have it removed because she wouldn't stop talking about it. But it was, it's like you could see the vein. I don't know what that's called.
Okay.
It's like, it was like a purple mark, but it was from the vein.
Yeah.
And she was like, I can get rid of that. And I'm just like, oh, okay. And I'm trying to, but she kept looking at it. And then she says, I do Botox. And I'm like, and the thing about it is that I like my face. My face is not perfect by any means, but I feel for my age, I look good, and I'm not shaming myself for my face.
Yeah, big time.
And all of a sudden, she started pointing out the things that she could do with Botox. Now, I am not against Botox. What I am is trying to accept myself for where I am. And I think a lot about how do I want to age? What does that look like? And my journey for me in this moment, because I have learned the hard way to say that if I do a hard no, like if I was to say a hard no, I'm never doing Botox, the universe I'll end up with Botox. universal. I just feel like I want to kind of be open to anything. I don't know. It's not really the route that I see myself taking. Same with plastic surgery. It's not really the route that I see myself going down. I never say never, but it's not really
At this
how,
point in time.
yeah,
Yeah.
how I am choosing at this point in time to age.
Yep.
I'm kind of more focused on the inside because I have a deep belief that your inside is a reflection of your outside. So if you don't like what's happening on the outside, let's start working on the inside. There are some exceptions, genetics. Some people, are predisposed to certain things, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But again, there's a part of us that needs to accept that this is what we have, right? Now, if you do Botox, I'm not judging you. That's perfectly fine. I have no judgment of it whatsoever. Some women feel really comfortable with that. Great.
Most women in your life probably do Botox.
Yeah, and that's totally fine. And honestly, I have considered getting Botox in my jaw because I've got a lot of jaw issues, and I've tried to do a lot of natural things to help my jaw. And I was talking to a nurse, and she was saying to me that because I said to her, Botox isn't really how I see fixing this. And her stance on it was, you know what? Maybe you just need to do it once in order to, because I've done so many natural things for my jaw and they'll work, but they don't stay. And she said what the Botox might do is relax it enough that maybe now I only need to do it once in order for all the other things that I'm doing to actually take and work. So I was like, okay, that's food for thought. Have not done that, but it was food for thought. So that's why I want to say never.
Cut to by the time this airs, Kelly's got Botox.
But that's, yeah.
But also, a lot of women do it because they don't want to have wrinkles and they feel better.
Yeah.
Most girls, so I'm in my 40s, mid 40s, and I would say I haven't done Botox yet either. And most of my friends have had Botox for a long time. And of girls that I've worked with in their 20s, they all get it now as a preventative thing. That's what they're told. It's preventative so they don't get wrinkles, or I guess maybe don't get lines from it. So probably most women listening to this, I'm going to guess a high percent have Botox.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to a guy recently, and he was saying to me, he's like, we were talking about something, and then Botox somehow came up in the conversation. And he was like, he was really surprised I didn't have Botox. And I'm like, oh, I'm really surprised that you're surprised. And he's like, Kelly, I don't know he's like, I don't have any friends that are girls that don't do Botox. He's like, everyone I know does Botox. And I'm like, oh, interesting. Now he's American, so I don't know if it maybe in Canada that is the same way.
I think it's the
have
same.
A lot of friends. I have friends that have tried it. I have a lot of friends who have never done it. So I kind of have a mixed bag.
Well, so for me, from Canadian girls, I don't know many that haven't done it.
Really?
And aren't going to always do it. And like young, from like 20s, 30s, and definitely 40s, 50s. Yeah, everyone is doing it. We're the only people I know. No, I have one other friend that I know for sure hasn't done it yet. And it's funny, like if we meet up, it's like, Becky, when are you going to get Botox? I'm like, is this a backhanded insult? I don't know. And yeah, it's a never say never. I might, but I am a little more, for me, it is just the fear of the side effects and complications and putting something in my body. If I was 100% certain that it was like super safe and all that, I probably at some point will. But because of my own health journey I've had, I'm a little more hesitant than most people. And I can be a hypochondriac. That's my thing, is I don't want to inject something in my body right now.
Well, that was my whole thing, is that I feel like, yes, it's been around for a while, but the question I always ask is, how does the body excrete this? Like, how is the body getting rid of this? You know what I mean? Like, it's a neurotoxin. So
I don't know. We need to do an episode maybe on Botox. We're getting off our body image thing.
We are.
Yeah.
But your face is part of
Yeah.
Part of our body and part of like our looks and how we feel about ourselves. It's a huge one.
And there's two big things I thought. One is, where did this start? Like when women only had one mirror in the house, going way back, how much did they think about their appearance? right? Like, I don't know. When did it start that women, it was like every day of your life,
Yeah.
you have hate thoughts or you're loathing yourself? When did that start? And also, what is the take on most women are getting cosmetic surgery of some kind in today's world because we're so on camera. Remember during the pandemic and Zoom
Yes.
and that like skyrocketed because people were looking at their face all day, every day.
Yes.
And if you do that to feel better about yourself and it does make you happier and not have self-hating thoughts, like I'm like, do it, girl. Like,
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I wish you could love the things you do love about yourself naturally as well.
Yeah.
But whatever works for you to not hate yourself or have those thoughts every day and be
Yeah.
happier in life, I think, life's too short.
So this is the question that I have, though, is that does the Botox or whatever
Or a boob
procedure-
job
yeah,
or what is the
whatever.
belly thing? It's probably common.
Oh,
Lipo?
liposuction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do those things actually do that? And that's the question I have.
Oh.
Because, and the reason why I asked that question is look how many people have been overweight for a big chunk of their life.
Yeah.
And then they lose the weight.
Mm-hmm.
The belief systems, I refer to it, and maybe, sorry if this is incorrect, but I still think of it as now you're skinny fat because your body is skinny, but your head is still that fat person because you haven't fixed the belief system that you have around that. And so that's kind of how I feel is the Botox and the injections and the boob jobs and all these things, they're just band-aids that we're putting on for the moment to feel good about ourselves in the moment. But the belief system that you have around this is still there. So you can still move around the world thinking that, there's a part of you that's going to think that you feel better about yourself. But in your subconscious, isn't that belief system still there? Isn't there something still there?
I find
for
that
you?
so complicated.
Because now you have to keep going because Botox wears off, right?
Yeah.
And you have to, breast implants have to be exchanged
Every
out.
10 years,
There's
yeah.
all of these things that you have to keep and maintain that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like you haven't fixed the problem. I think that's part of it's no different than if you were to take a medicine for something. It's a band-aid.
Got to
effect.
Ozempic.
Yeah, it's just it's the band-aid effect. It's not, it's not the real thing. And like the same with Ozempic, like the minute you go off that, eventually all the weight comes back, right? So
Yep.
you haven't fixed any problem. And
So, but that is the question. I know what you're saying and I'm with you. And I'm very committed to like what I would call spiritual work or healing your inside. But for someone if that's not their path, if it's just so that they don't hate themselves every day and what they see in the mirror and it's not like now they look in the mirror and they have nice thoughts about themselves. Like, I don't know. I kind of want to say maybe that they do that and it gets them to a point where they can do the inner work.
Yeah, I'm not against it by any means.
Yeah.
It's just, it's, I feel like that's part of our society is we always do the Band-Aid, but then we don't dig underneath it.
Yeah, we don't find the
find the root cause of it.
Big time, yeah.
And I'm with you. Yeah, I'm 100% sure that there are going to be girls out there who are now feeling better about themselves and maybe for the first time they can start to do the work because they're not so self-loathing anymore, if that's what's happening. But I feel like, again, like part of wanting to do this podcast was to be able to bring issues and topics out so that we could kind of not just have Band-Aid kind of responses, but kind of try and figure out what is under all of that. And that's, if we can loop back again to your course, is that I feel like your course isn't just for young girls. It's also for the mothers of these young girls to do the course with them. Like, I'm not a young girl and I did your course. And
it's weird you say that because that's the feedback I've got this week from a few people that are like, say, moms of teen girls' age that are saying that they're doing it.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, God. So I'm raising it to saying, like, I think if you're definitely a young adult, you could get benefit from it.
Absolutely. And I know that you designed it for the young girls, but I really feel like these young girls being able to to do this work hopefully will also spark their mothers and their grandmothers and their aunts and all their cousins and the people that are around them, all the girls that are around them and the women that are around them, to take a look at their own self-worth and what does that look like. And I'm pretty sure you and I had the conversation where someone had said that,
Why does my daughter
Yeah.
need this?
Yeah.
That was one. So when well, it is, I am still kind of getting feedback from some people. I would say I'm almost at the end of my soft launch for that, of the online version of the program, because this was in person before. And she said, and she has a teen daughter, and she said, why would I need to get this for her? And it really floored me. It was literally like, why does she need self-worth? And I'm so far on the other side of that I thought, oh, like it didn't even occur to me that there's I had to step back and say, what's the education piece? And what is the difference between self-worth and self-esteem? And I think it probably holds up a mirror to a lot of women that is uncomfortable. That's also what I'm realizing by some of the feedback I've got from friends who I'm like, tell me the truth. And as you're doing this with your daughter, what is she saying? What are you saying? Because I want to make it as much as I can like it is in person, which is such a beautiful thing for girls that are doing it on their own. I hope friends do it together. But yeah, there's that huge piece that I wasn't aware of.
Yeah.
Which I don't know exactly what to do about. If a mom doesn't realize why her daughter should learn about her own self-worth, that's tricky for me that mom needs to go on a journey probably for herself.
Oh, absolutely. Because the truth is that mom's self-worth is the definition of what society has told her self-worth is. That's the extent of her self-worth. Because if you do not know the answer to that question, then the only answer can be is what other people told her it is. That's what she's taken on. So she has no clue what her real self-worth is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
It was it was truly shocking for me because I'm so deep in the world of self-worth, right? And have been for so long that I thought, oh, shoot, like people need to realize why they need this and what is the difference. And I love doing self-esteem acts, and there's so many things you can do to build self-esteem. And I did a lot of those. And I went to an all-girls school that really fostered girls being confident and leaders. And the messaging was, never look for Prince Charming. You're the Prince Charming.
Yes.
It was very much that. I'm lucky to have had that. But beneath it, at the time, I didn't feel worthy. I don't know exactly where I was on that meter, but definitely that's been a life. I've had a lot of things thrown at me in life that have led me on that journey that you can't save people and everyone has to do their own thing, but I hope I can help give them some tools. So whatever is their version of that, it's a little bit easier or softer. And this next generation of girls at least has the notion you're worthy and you don't have to do a damn thing to be worthy. You were born worthy. And it doesn't matter. Another huge one, and this is what I got from girls.
Say that again.
You don't have to do it.
You were
Born worthy. Yeah, it's intrinsic.
That I don't think most people know.
Right.
I really, I think you could say that 100 times because it's that powerful. That statement is so powerful.
Yeah.
Because I honestly do not believe most people know that. I don't.
It's heartbreaking.
And I'm not even just going to leave that with women. I think it's men too. I think that as humans, I think a lot of people do not know that. I think it's a really sad fact, but I do think that that's a true fact.
So I think that is the engine beneath it all. Like what you think your worth is kind of what's driving you in literally every moment of your life.
100%.
You can have self-esteem and for sure, but not know your worth.
Yeah.
I think that's true. And that was me for a lot of my life. Because girls the messaging they're getting is that they're not worthy unless they look quote unquote hot, right?
Yes.
And your mission is to attract men. Our reality TV, like win the man. It's just it's insane. So
or marry the man.
Right. That's the ultimate goal,
Yes.
girls. And these girls now have grown up getting that messaging, seen those types of shows, have been on since they were 6,
Yeah.
right? Another big one I just want to add in here that I try to really hammer home because it's what I've heard from people and girls through my work is a lot of people think they're not worthy. They're carrying a shame, which we could probably have a whole episode devoted to Brene Brown and around shame and all her work on that. They're carrying the idea that they're not worthy because of something they did, one thing that they did in life. So because of that very bad thing, they can't have they don't deserve self-worth, or like something really bad happened to them, usually around abuse. So because of that, they blame themselves. So they don't get to have self-worth. That's pretty common. So I really, really try to hammer home. It's not true. Like, it's not true. There's nothing you did that is so bad that you don't deserve to be worthy, or that you did or was done to you. It's just not, it's intrinsic. Actually, I released something the other day because I wanted to try. I thought, how can I really make people understand that you're born with it? It is the same as your heartbeat. Like, I put that post out. It's that much a part of you is your worth. It just is. And it's a fundamental fact. Anyways, I'll leave it there. I will go and look at worthfulness.com. I don't want to start preaching. But yeah, anyways, this is the message I want the next generation of girls to really know.
Yeah, I love that too. I love that messaging because I say this a lot, is that, you will do things, you will say things, things will happen to you. That doesn't define you as a person. It is just something that's happened to you. It's not who you are.
Yes.
And
that's the perfect another way to say it.
Yeah. It's like, I can't say that enough to people when they're going through things. And I'm just like, this is happening also for you, not to you, right? This is a lesson that you're having to go through. And with girls, it's like, these things happened, they happened in your life. They're things that you're going to go through, and know that it doesn't define who you are. And it actually happens for us so that we can learn and grow, and we can evolve from that. And that is honestly, I think, how we continue to also grow our self-worth, is because we're constantly tested. But being able to do the work with you allows young girls to have tools. And I think that's what not only young girls, but even women of all ages, like, think about, our grandmothers, you know what I mean? The lack of tools that they had.
Oh, gosh.
And the messaging that they had. I love the story. I don't love the story from my mother-in-law. When she got married, she was 19 years old, and she couldn't have a bank account. She was not allowed to have a bank account. It had to be her husband could have the bank account. She wasn't allowed to have one because he could control the money. And it's like, think about all the things all the messaging.
The undertone messaging that she's been given. Yeah.
And she still talks about that to this day. So I know that that's been very impactful in her life.
Right.
That someone told her that she wasn't allowed to do something, that she wasn't, I don't know.
Literally connected to a value base, right? Like money. How does our world go around? Currency.
Yeah.
Wow, that's powerful.
And that's 70 something years later, or I guess 50 years later, because she was
Oh, God.
but she was, more than 50 years later, like, that's still impacting her life. So it's interesting when we bring this full circle back to, like, all of these things that are happening in our lives, that how we see ourselves and how we show up in the world is going to have a big impact on how we move through it, and how easy or hard our lessons are that are going to be in front of us. I think that that's huge, because how I see myself is what I'm going to attract in this world. Yeah.
I feel that is going to be hard for some people to hear. I think that takes a big spiritual leap to think that something horrible that happened to you was happening for you. I think that'd be really, because some really bad things happen, right? That's pretty.
I get that.
That's a big mental leap for a lot of people. So I just want to honor that.
Yeah, 100%. I get that too.
I've been on a many years journey and struggled to get there, to think that bad things that happened to me were happening for me. That's tough.
It is tough.
Yeah.
I'll never say that that's not tough. Yeah, and that's a lot of work to be able to understand. And there's so many dynamics that also go with that maybe for another podcast.
Yeah, that's pretty deep stuff.
It is deep work. And But to go back to just the body image and what we wanted to be able to share today was kind of our own journeys of how we see ourselves and how we got to this point of where we are in the world, and to know that we are just like everyone else. We're still struggling with things, we're still working through things, but that's part of the journey, is to constantly be working on ourselves and to be better versions of ourselves. And one of the things that I know you do in your course, but I did a little like Googling on my own because
Yep.
I wanted to leave the podcast today where we could leave people with
Some tools.
some tools to be able to help themselves be able to start to move through their own, I don't know, what would you even call it? It's just like our own baggage, our own stuff that is just not serving our highest good, the things that we are wading through constantly, and it's kind of bringing us down. And how can we start to be able to get through some of that so that we can start to build a better foundation? So it's kind of like sometimes it's trying to build a foundation in a swampland.
Yep.
How do we drain out some of that water so that we can start the foundation? And I know you've got some great tools. One of the things that I found that I really liked was jotting down the negative things that you say or think about your body, then rewriting those messages in a more respectful way. And I really like that because I'm all about affirmations, mantras. I really, my life has always been about making that a priority when I'm trying to work through things. And I just thought, to be able to spend some time by yourself and start to figure out what is the messaging that is coming through and which ones are sticking to me. What is it that I'm actually taking on for myself? And what do I believe about myself? And I also thought about if you wanted to do a meditation, I love the body scan. And what I tell people all the time is don't judge your body while you're doing this, because how many times we start to think too much while we're going through each body part. And that's what a body scan does. It's a beautiful meditation where you're laying down, you're going through all the body parts, and you're just naming each one, so that the idea is just to be able to focus and to be able to release. And what messages are starting to come up? What body parts are starting that you might be judging as you're going through them? That might be a way to kind of, if you're really unaware of the negative thoughts that you have for yourself, this might be an exercise that you could do that, oh, hey, this is coming up for me when I get to my stomach, or how are you feeling in your body when you come to the different body parts? Or you may just know what they are and start to write them out. I really don't like my, lips, or I really don't like my stomach, or whatever it is. So how can you rewrite that so that you turn that into a positive, so that you can start to, that conscious mind, start to change some of those thoughts? So that was one of the exercises I really liked, but I know you've got quite a
Yeah.
few that
It's
are good.
funny. I have the girls do that for not around body specifically. It's just like, because I also don't want them to start focusing on what they don't like. So it's a tough one. But I say the ones you notice are coming up during the day a lot. Like, let's pick the top 5 that are negative about you in general. Like, I'm so dumb, I'm not good at that, or I'm not good at math, or whatever it is. Write down what's the counterpoint. And every time you catch yourself, it's like, ooh, stop. And you can even say out loud, like, stop, or like, and then say that positive one around it, just for the common ones. We're not looking for new bad ones, because you could really go up with a long list if that was your exercise, but just, and not just around body, around everything. But I like the idea of just thinking about your body.
Yeah.
Um,
And the thing about it is that you have to bring out the negative in order to be able to change it. So if you don't know what it is that you're saying about yourself, if you don't know what your thoughts are about yourself, then you don't have the power to be able to change it.
Absolutely.
So I want people to focus on that. So because the focus is really going to be on the rewriting it. because that
Yes.
is the new
Yeah.
mantras or affirmations that you're going to be able to take
Yep.
with you and start to change.
I'm with you. For young girls, it makes me nervous because it's virtual and if it's not an in-person session, I'm too nervous to have them on their own be thinking just about because they're already so wired to just hate themselves and have all those thoughts. But even for especially the younger side of the program, for those girls, the feedback I've got from parents is the concept of being aware of their thoughts is new in itself. So that can be overwhelming and scaring. But for adult women, absolutely. Any that you know you have, write it down.
Yeah, this is mostly what I'm talking about is for
adult women.
adults.
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
It's not for children because I don't think any kids are going to be listening.
It's
to
funny.
us.
That's the first thing that I put in my notes today because I only picked out like a few of the tools.
Oh, okay.
But that was the first one that I had.
I was hoping that you were good. There's one in particular I thought.
Okay, I have it. I wrote down a couple others. Tell me if I missed it. But one is actually, sorry, that's not the first one. That's the third one. The first one, which is a big part of the program. It's like I think the first tool that we work on, or maybe there's some concepts before, but every morning you got to start making a list, right? And it's like, what do I like and love about myself? And it doesn't matter if 100 people told me that that's not true. I know I like and love this about myself. And it might take some girls, and it has, like, they'll say to me, it's so heartbreaking. I don't like anything about myself. I can't, there's not even one thing on the list. And for those girls, I say, if you set your mind throughout the day to just try and find that first thing, and if your mind's focused on finding something that you like or love about yourself, it will come to you eventually. And once you get the first thing, maybe it takes a month, you get the second. And by 6 months, you'll surprise yourself that you've probably got up to 10 things. And it might take that long. For some girls, it's really easy and they can immediately have 30 things. You know, everyone is in a different place on their journey, but then it becomes a habit. Every morning, either when you first wake up or when you're brushing your teeth, connect it to something else, but you start the day reminding yourself of that list of things you like and love about yourself, and being aware. I think it's just a great way to start the day. So you're always coming from the positive, not with I get up, I look in the mirror, I'm brushing my teeth, and I think I'm so ugly.
Yeah.
Like, no. What are the things you know you like and love about you? And you never have to tell anyone. As we did earlier, I say to them, you don't have to tell anyone your list. It is just for you. And it doesn't matter if someone else doesn't agree or doesn't see that in you. You see it in yourself and you know that it's true. So it's actually not up for debate, right? It's just for you. So that's one. And then I have if it's common negative ones, let's sit down and think of those counterpoints. And I'm not asking them to say that it's not true. It's just what's a counterpoint thought whenever you catch yourself having that common negative one throughout the day, just so we start working and not self-hate talk all day long, which a lot of women and young girls are most of the day thinking those thoughts, unfortunately. I know from the girls what they tell me that they're thinking, and you could cry. And I want to point out that the more you do these things, it can sound silly, or I know I get the feedback like, what's that really going to do? But it actually unlocks a bigger thing, which is the more that you know that you like and love about yourself, the less impact other people's opinions has when they're giving you negative feedback.
Absolutely.
Right? You don't buy into it as quickly or as much when you're like, I'm pretty locked down on these at least 10 things I know. Yes. And I don't mean physical. I always say I want you to have 2 or 3 physical. Mostly I have them focus on like intrinsic values or whatever you want to say. Like, I really like that I'm kind or whatever that might be. It's harder for that to penetrate when people are mean girling you or bullying you or whatever it is, or the messaging from the world that you're seeing all around you that you're not attractive. You're like, no, but I've got this, so it doesn't get in as much. And then if the mirror is a trigger for them or for you listening, which it is for a lot of women, go as far as, and I know this is like from the 70s and SNL's done bits on it, but it works. Put a note on your mirror or write in makeup, and you can, wipe it away if someone's coming over. Make it so that it can easily be removed, but write it up there so that you're seeing and being reminded of things you do like about your physical.
Oh my gosh, I do stickies all the time.
Totally. But I know some people think like it's silly. What's it really going to do? It's getting in there. It is getting into your conscious mind at the very least. Every day you're being reminded, oh no, I like that I have strong arms, or that I have, I have big calves, but that makes me strong and I can run farther because of them. However you connect it to the positive, I think it's worthy. So it might sound silly or embarrassing. Just try it for a month. And then, if you say, no, that didn't work for me. Okay, I'd be surprised based on the feedback I've heard. Just try it. You don't have to do it forever. It's not a big committal, but to not look in the mirror and just think horrible things that you don't like about yourself is huge.
It's huge. I say do the sticky notes. I love the sticky notes on the mirror. I do them. And if you and I do them, I'm old school. Yes, I have a day book. I do use my my iCalendar, but I do the old school book. So I have tons of sticky notes. I am the sticky note queen.
Okay.
And
Love
so
it.
I do them in my day book. And then I say to people who are like, yeah, I don't do that. Then I'm like, okay, set a reminder for yourself so that it pops up
Yeah.
throughout the day.
Yeah.
You've got your mantra of
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, you know, I have the best smile. You know, I love my eyes, whatever it is
Yeah.
that you have. You know, I love unconditionally my body. You know, my body is strong and beautiful. Like, whatever you want your mantra to be about yourself, just make sure that you have reminders throughout the day that you can see that will pop up somewhere, whether it's popping up on a sticky note on your laptop. I also have sticky notes on my laptop where I open it up and there it is. So you always have these reminders of whatever it is that you want to work on, whether it's your body image or something else you want to manifest in your life. We're definitely going to do a manifesting episode. We actually probably spent an hour before we did this episode talking about manifesting.
I wish I'd been recording, everyone. I wish you could have heard what Kelly was giving me, and I thought it's not fair that I'm getting this all for myself.
So we definitely will bring that in because I think it's so powerful. There's some great tools. I was also going to say too, there's a lot of women. You said something, and I was thinking too. Yes, it's young girls, but there's even like the women that I talk to that I see a lot because I do a lot of my work is around hormones and that. And I see a lot of women pregnancy and post-pregnancy. Good God, women are hard on their bodies. They're so down on their bodies. A lot of things are changing in their bodies. And this is a really hard transition for a lot of women to see that their bodies have changed so much over the 9 months. And then they may not be going, quote unquote, back to how they want it to be. As quickly as they want it to be. So if this is you, this is a great exercise to just love your body exactly where it is and to know you just gave life. Like that's my first thing I always say is like you just gave life. Like you've got to, and your body was so strong and beautiful to be able to do this. Like, you know, give it time to be able to get back to where you want it to be. But I see that
Focus on the gratitude.
yeah, there's so many transitions that the body goes through, and especially with hormone fluctuation. And even just in a month, our bodies will change. You know what I mean? Everybody's bra size changes in the month because of hormones. And as we get closer to our periods, like everybody's bodies change a little bit. We're constantly in this flux. And I feel like sometimes we feel that that's why it's hard to be able to love ourselves because it's always changing. It's never consistent and staying how we want it to be. But knowing that we just have to love our bodies exactly where they are in the moment and to know what you said earlier, that the messaging that you tell Evie, like your body is strong, you know what I mean? And to give ourselves a messaging that our bodies are strong, our bodies are beautiful exactly how they are. And is anybody's body perfect? No. You know what I mean? They're not. Nobody's. They're all unique and different in their own ways. And to just embrace and love what you were given.
That's a beautiful point to end on, I feel.
The only thing you didn't mention, which I thought you were going to mention, which I know you talk about in your course, is like a detox from social media. Because I know that we get a lot of our messaging from social media.
Yeah.
So that was the only one I actually thought that was going to be your first.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so
well, that's like a whole bigger thing in itself.
It is. But it was just the messaging comes from that. So
to realize what you're seeing all day, every day. Yeah, I should touch it. Like the comparison, you know, for my one, you know, it's broken up into weeks and there's sections within each week. But the comparison talk I always say is life changing because for me in my own journey to realize most of the biggest percent of my life unhappiness is when I'm comparing and I'm so prone to do it. And as I've come through my journey of not or catching myself, and social media is brutal
Yeah.
for comparison, because people are, for the most part, putting up the best version of their life or themselves, or it's not real with filters, or
I
even
was
now
just gonna say the filters.
the filters, and not even filters, like teens today, there's tools, like they're like designers, like graphic designers for their own photos of editing how your face and body looks, so it's not even real. And depending who you're following, you could get a ton of messaging on how attractive they are or in shape they are, or whatever it is, and how much you don't have that. So just try. And even I say it first 3 days, because every like physical detox is 3 days. Once you get to that, make the 3 days. But of course, I'd love it to be a week. And you realize how much better you feel about yourself when you're not being bombarded every day. Or if you're not, some girls, they can't, like, it's a pretty big addiction and it's built for you to be addicted. If there's people you see that make you feel bad about yourself every day, just stop following them. Or you can like mute them, so they don't even, you don't have to unfollow. Maybe it would be social suicide to unfollow somebody, but mute them so you're not seeing them in your feed every day. Because it's almost like a virtual version of cutting. You're intentionally seeing someone that makes you feel bad based on what they're showing you of their life about yourself. Don't put yourself through that every day, and just don't let's cut that out at a very base minimum. Because how can you get to focusing on what you love about yourself and thinking about all the things you love about yourself and your life, and being grateful for those, if there's too much self-hate and self-loathing around comparison? It's just, otherwise it's in your face constantly.
Yeah. And I try to go a little bit deeper with that too, because I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'd say if something is triggering you,
Yeah.
if you're being triggered by somebody's feed, then yes, I 100% agree. Then you need to unfollow and then take it a step further and figure out, what is it in you that is lacking, that makes you feel not worthy for yourself?
Yeah.
Like, there's something in there. I always like to get down to the nitty gritty,
Right.
the deep stuff, because I think that this is where that true change comes, and how we can move through the world with self-worth, with our own self-respect, and now not have the world allow their opinion to form us and create who we are. And then I think that's where I think there's so much unhappiness. I think there's so much depression and unhappiness because we're not living our own authentic life. We're living all the stuff that
The expectations.
Yeah, the expectations, and we're living what people tell us about ourselves and tell us how we're supposed to show up in the world. And so who can be happy that way?
Totally.
You can't.
Not if you're
Like, there's-
inauthentic.
Yeah. You're just, and I think so many people don't know that is how they're showing up. They don't understand that they're not showing up as their true authentic self. And I feel like a lot of battle that goes on inside is our true authentic self wanting to come out, and then the version of the world that how it's telling us how to show up is clashing. And we're like in that struggle that we have inside us a lot, is that clashing of the two. And so I want people to go in and figure out, who am I? What do all the things that you said, figuring out, what do you like about yourself? Because there is something.
Exactly. And I know, and I know a lot of people, even maybe women, I don't know, because I don't work with older women, but say, no, there's nothing. I couldn't find something. Nope. And just to know and realize, okay, just as an experiment, just try, change that mindset. Tomorrow when you wake up, from the beginning of the day, you're on the lookout. And just every interaction you have, think, oh, what was that thing? Oh, actually, I'm pretty smart. I did that. Or I am a good person, or I'm kind, or whatever, even at a base level of like the sort of core emotions, or being part of a society. Is there something in there for you? Did you do something nice for some, or your thought? There's so many things it could be. There's hundreds, but just when you change your mindset to look for it, I defy you to not find one thing you end up liking about yourself. I don't believe you if you tell me there's nothing, especially after doing it for a few days or a week. Eventually it always comes, and it's so beautiful when someone does find that first thing, and then it's like a waterfall as you're on the lookout for them. what you're saying, I'm with you on all that. I think that's I'm hesitant to put that for the teen girls.
Not for the teen
Okay,
girls,
yeah, but for
because
women to
yeah,
get to
for
the
women,
root of what's
yes.
triggering them,
Yeah,
absolutely.
definitely
Yeah.
not for teen girls, because you're not there yet,
Yeah.
and that's a
The
that's a
triggers are
whole
being
other-
developed.
Yeah, for sure. But I think the majority of our audience is going to be women.
Yeah,
And I'm always
absolutely.
like, if there is something, if you're being, because I think it's not just teen girls who are looking and comparing themselves.
Mhm.
I think that all women are out on social media comparing themselves with someone, and it's hard not to. And
God,
it's
yeah.
not even just looking at women's bodies, it's their lives on social media. There's all these things. Like, I was following someone, and I won't say who it is. I'm just going to say that, I have a dog, and I know what it's like to live in a house with a dog. There is fur everywhere. Like, it's almost my disclaimer when you come over to my house that there's going to be fur everywhere. And this woman has dogs, kids, and her whole social media, her whole house is white. And I'm like,
I feel like you're giving it away. You haven't told me who it is, but I already know who it
and
is.
I am like, there is no way everything is staying white. I have a dog. I have a white comforter, and I have a dog blanket. No one will ever see my white comforter because I have to have a dog blanket over it. Otherwise, my white is going to be black. Like, there is not a possible way that this woman can live in a white world.
Yeah.
And I laugh so hard because I'm thinking, how many women are looking at this feed wondering what's gone wrong in their life. Because I know I have literally scratched my head, and I just scratched my head thinking about this. How I could have possibly, how do I not have this white clean house? I cannot do that.
And
And
if it's who I think you think it is,
and I have one dog, and this person has two. So
and children.
and children, and I'm like, it's not possible. So
If it's who I
filters, they are filters.
well, no, that person has a lot of help in their life, I believe.
They have help, but
Yeah.
they also you have to have some filters. Like, I could not have Finn. I have a 110-pound Bernese mountain dog, and if anybody who knows them, they have a lot of fur. There is not a chance in the world. He comes and puts his head on me, and my jeans cannot stay clean. So it's like, yes, this person has a lot of help. Yes, this person, but there has to be a
You think
white out
so?
filter.
I'm so curious now.
I don't know.
I think they got a lot of comments about that because I've heard someone I'm thinking of, I don't know who you're talking about, who had to do a post saying, hey, I just want to be clear, like, I have a nanny and a house cleaner and like people around that help my house look so amazing.
Okay.
But even knowing, like, that's triggering in itself. Like, oh, it'd be hard not to be envious. Wow, you've got a nanny and a house cleaner, and what do I have? Right? So that person, I think, probably does trigger a lot of people. And for women that are getting triggered, as you say, I'd say go inside, and you got to figure out what's getting triggered.
Figure out and I know I did get off topic because that's a whole other thing, but what I wanted to, I guess what I wanted to say by that is that's how powerful social media is. It's not just body image, it's your life.
Yeah.
Like, you're looking at everybody else's life and this
Quote
tiny
unquote
little
life.
snippet
Yeah.
of their life. But this is what people think.
Yeah.
Oh, this person's life is this way. It's
And
not.
don't you know, this is being one of my friends that always go on walks together, talk about, like, we see friends or people in our lives, we follow the same people, we see their feeds, and it looks like they have a perfect life, perfect family, all these dream things going on. And we know the truth because maybe we're good friends with them or whatever, and we know that it is anything but that. But what is
We
appearing...
had this conversation earlier. Before we did the podcast, we talked about the certain people in our lives where the world sees them as a certain way.
Yeah.
But when you know them behind the scenes, is this what you're saying?
No.
Oh,
You mean this morning we talked about that?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know. I was trying to remember everything you were saying this morning. It was so powerful. But I know, kind of. I'm just saying, if you have that knowledge when you're looking at people that maybe you're getting triggered with envious, right?
Yes.
You're envious of their life, to just always know that you are seeing such a small percent, and whatever, like it might not be a physical filter, but it is a filter of what they're letting you
Yes.
see.
Yes.
And usually, like, something's, no one has a perfect life. So there's something going on. And often the people that I see presenting as the most perfect or the most envious, I've often known what's really going on in those people's lives, and it's really awful, and they're really struggling mentally or with
Yes.
something going on in that relationship or whatever it is. So to just keep that in mind about how it's such a lie, it's so untrue. And that's why I'm like, just mute them. If it's making you feel bad every day, just mute that, and then do your own inner work, as you're saying. Don't miss that piece.
Because the truth is that once you do this work, you go on social media, you'll immediately see it for what it really is. You know that your filter is going to come off, and now you're going to see things for what they really are, and there is no trigger. Like once you've done this work and you can see, and now it's like, in all the work that I've done, no, like I've been honest to say that no, I don't. I'm still working on my body image issues, but my body image issues are so much smaller than they were when I started out as a teenage girl, because now I recognize them when they happen. And the thing is that I'm not triggered by other women. Now when I see other women, I see their beauty. I don't have the jealousy of other women.
Yeah.
The things that I'm struggling with are mine, my own issues. They're not about anyone else.
Right.
I don't have the comparison anymore.
Yeah.
I love being able to see other women grow and to step into their own self-worth, but also to their own beauty, and to watch them blossom and grow. That is a beautiful thing, to be able to be in this place, to be able to love other women and for where they are. And there's no comparison game anymore. I don't have that. I don't want to play that. And now it's easy to have compliments, and when I compliment you, know that it is actual genuine. Like I'm not saying things for the sake of saying things. I feel so compelled, and I want to share that, because and I really encourage, I talk about this a lot, I really encourage other women, if you like something about someone, say it. You know
I have
what
that
mean?
in the program too. Yeah.
Yeah, like really be able to share, because there is nothing better in life than someone recognizing something about you and seeing you for who you are and seeing your own beauty, because we all are beautiful.
Absolutely.
And so I love being able to do that. So now on social media, I don't have that game, because there's nothing about that. And now I see where the insecurities are. Now I can see the snippets. Okay, yeah, so that woman's house bugged me a little bit, but but as far as other women and their beauty, oh my gosh, I love it. Now all the stuff that I follow are the most beautiful, empowering women. And that's what, if you're really struggling, try and find some women that really can help lift you up, because there's some great accounts out there.
Being honest, I do still get triggered, but the difference is I catch myself.
Yeah,
I will
that's
say. So
perfect.
like that's the level of growth I'm at.
Yeah,
That I
that's
might see that person and I immediately get to like, oh, but then I'm like, wait a minute. And I will in the minute try and do the work on, it's sort of like a full circle thought process of, okay, what was I triggered in? And reminding myself, I don't know what's going on in their life. What are the things I love about my life and me, and what do I value? Yeah. So I definitely still do when I see what appears to be this incredible life that looks like it has a lot of the things that I would want in my life. So I guess I'm at the catch myself point of view. I'm not at the
beautiful.
Doesn't
It's
get
beautiful.
triggered. Yeah.
No, that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful place to be at.
For sure.
Because that's part of the journey in the process,
Yep.
right? And I would even say that's a stage that we have to go through.
Yeah.
I had to go through that.
Right.
Absolutely. Where it's just like, okay, I actually made myself I made my own, how can I say this, my own soul contract to be able to say, like, I'm not doing that anymore. Like, I am choosing not to do that anymore. I'm choosing not to compare myself anymore. And I'm choosing that when I look at somebody, I'm going to see their light. I'm going to see the beauty in them, and that know that they have their journey with that body and whatever they needed to learn around that. I have my own, and I'm choosing to focus more on my own stuff and to see what it is when I look in the mirror, what's coming up for myself. So that's, and clearly I've still got my own stuff that, there's days where like I'll put clothes on and I'm feeling great. There's days I put clothes on and I'm like, this is the 10th outfit I've changed into. And I'm waiting for that moment that I feel good in it. And I'm like, this is not it. That comes off. And I have to go through that. And then sometimes I'm like, okay, but why didn't the first one work? You know what I mean? So I'm kind of asking myself, what is it about that one that didn't make me feel good about myself?
Who knows?
I was going to say 9 out of 10 times, 10 out of 10 times. I don't have the answer for it. I don't know. I just keep going until I find that piece of clothing that I'm like, okay, I can show up in the world being the best version of myself in there.
Which is one benefit of getting older. You really do care less.
Yeah.
You really do. You don't put the importance on it. It doesn't matter. You start to focus on things that really are important and less on, I guess, exterior.
Yeah.
One benefit of aging.
Yes.
You know what we didn't talk about? That this was a body image and cellulite. And we didn't even talk about cellulite. Just so funny.
So we'll have to say that for a different one,
Yeah.
because I have a lot of thoughts on cellulite.
Oh, okay,
I
good.
do. Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll save that.
We'll save that. Okay.
All right. Onwards on our journey and upwards.
They can't see me like Houdini, move discreetly. I go.
The benefits of mudwater rest are relaxing, winding down, sleep quality, and immunity support. And of course, zero caffeine. What better way to end your evening while supporting your immunity and sleep? The Mudwater Starter Kit includes a free USB rechargeable frother as well, which is valued at $20 when you use our code. And I am now obsessed with frothing, and it holds a charge. It's over a month now. It's still holding a charge. If you're in the US, it also comes with free shipping. Mudwater.com, mudwtr.com/wellness brings you to our Misbehaving Woman extra discount options. $20 off if you subscribe to the monthly version, plus another 15%. Or just go for that 15% off your first starter